have an entire presentation that I do that's called The Sacred Journey of Caregiving, a Transformational Approach to Life. And the reason that it's titled The Sacred Journey is because I truly believe that the work that we do as caregivers is sacred. And why is it sacred? Anytime you do something for someone else that they cannot do for themselves, that's just pure charity. And that is a sacred act. And so as you're going about your caregiving responsibilities, and I know it's not fun to have to bathe people and clean them up, and they have accidents, and they do this and they do that, but if you remember that what you're doing, even though it might not smell like it, it's still a sacred behavior because you are doing something for them that they cannot do for themselves. Then the next part is the journey is transformational. It can be. It can transform us into operating at a higher level, and I call that our journey. That caregiving is really about us and has very little to do with the people that we're taking care of. The lessons that I need to learn in life came through caregiving opportunities. You know, that's where I really was able to mine and to develop what I call divine characteristics. And what are those? Divine by birth, not by behavior. My first caregiving journey came before I was 5 years old. That was my first one. And that was for my grandma because she fell and she broke her hip. Back in the early 1950s, we didn't have hip replacements. Now, they might have had them in New York City, but in rural Alabama, we didn't have them. So Grandma was bedridden. So part of my job as a caregiver, and remember how sacred this is now. It's sacred because you're doing something for someone else that they cannot do for themselves. You know, that is pure love. That's what that is. So my job was to empty Grandma's bedpan and wash it out. And my grandma also dipped snuff. So she has a spit jar. And so I could clean out the spit jar, wash it out good, put some toilet paper down in the bottom so it didn't spatter. But I love doing that because I love my first turn at caregiving came before I was 5 years old. When I started to school, my mom couldn't handle it. She couldn't handle it anymore. My mom had 5 children. I was the youngest, and a mother-in-law that had been bedridden for years, and she was burned out. She was just burned out, and she really just couldn't handle it all. But you know what? At 6 years old, I got it. I knew why Grandma could no longer live with us. I got it. Just keeping her clean and dry and all the things we had to do for her, I understood as much as I loved her and I missed her. And we would go to the nursing home every Sunday, and I would call her things, and I would take things to her. And we cried every time we left. But I knew she couldn't come home anymore because we couldn't handle it. We couldn't handle Grandma anymore. So at 6 years old, I got this whole thing about caregiving. So even though I wrote the first book on elder care in 1996, I've been doing this a long time. Some of us are still working. And so when we're at work and we feel like we need to be at home, we need to be checking on our mom, we need to, you know. And so we are in the sandwich. Whether you're a baby boomer or not, you're still going to be in the sandwich. You're going to be in a sandwich of perhaps your own adult children and taking care of a spouse, or your adult children and taking care of a parent. Or maybe you have grandchildren that you have to take care of, and then you have an elderly loved one. So some of us are in a sandwich that looks kind of like a Dagwood special. Remember Dagwood from the comic? And he always had like 3 or 4 layers. Yeah, some of it looks like